Well, hello, and welcome back to another episode of DTH Reviews, and today we are doing Amnesia, a Machine for Pigs. Now, this game is the second in the Amnesia series, and it kind of starts off in the same fashion where you play a character and he wakes up and he can't remember what's going on, and then you kind of have to wander through this game and pick up clues as you go along, and it's supposed to be scary. So, what did you think, Jamison? Did you think it was scary? Because that's kind of all I was expecting when I jumped into Amnesia, a Machine for Pigs. I was like, scare me. I want to be scared. And yeah,
I went into it hoping it wouldn't be scary.
Yeah.
So I hate scary games. Was it scary? It was. I think it was a different type of scary from what I was expecting. It was less. It was less in your face scary and more sort of hiding in the shadows, like not knowing what's happening type of scary. And it certainly has a number of very scary moments, but it's not as scary as I thought it would be, which is really good. I'm really happy with that.
It is scary, yes. It is a scary game.
Yeah.
It's no Dark Descent, but it is still definitely a horror game. There's some sections in the game that play out quite differently from one another. The beginning of the game, you start in this kind of, I believe it's 18th century, it might be 19th, I'm not sure.
It's 19th century, 1899.
Ah, okay, and you start in this kind of English mansion, and you're wandering around, and it's eerie. It's very eerie, it's very chilling, and it's almost disturbing in some of the scenes later on in the game. But the first section of the game is quite tame, but it does a good job to build up this tension, because you know something's going to happen eventually. You know something's going to come, something's going to be scary, but nothing really happens for, I'm not going to say how long, but it's a small section of the game where...
For a good while, I think.
Yeah, and it builds up this... Oh, God, it was like... if you haven't seen any trailers or videos for it, you kind of know that there is a AI horror element, which is these pigs. I don't think that's much of a spoiler. That's kind of the main...
It says pigs right in the title.
Yeah, it's literally... They're pigs. They're giant weird pigs that chase you. So you know they're coming, and you're just waiting. You're biding your time. You know these pigs are coming. You know they're going to scare you. And it does a good job of building the tension, and then you slowly kind of transition into this very mechanical machinery aspect of the game, and it feels very different. It did to me anyway. When you first meet the pigs... I say meet like it's a meet and greet.
Yeah.
When you first encounter the pigs, I was slightly disappointed, to be completely honest with you. I didn't find them as a horror entity to be very scary when you're face to face with them. Personally, what did you think of the pigs?
I tried not to get too close to them, so I didn't. I know what you mean, but they're not as effective. Sort of, I think, in a similar way that, like, if you shine your light on just about any creature, it gets less scary once you start looking at them. But they're still freaky and disturbing in different ways from the enemies in the last game. I
think they kind of chuck you into these pig scenarios, and you're right. The best horror moments come out when you don't know where they are, and they introduce these kind of clever mechanics where your lamp will start flickering when they're close to you, and that's when your heart starts to race. And
that is the worst part. The light flickering when something bad is nearby. Oh man. And sometimes nothing happens, and that's even worse.
Yeah.
When the flickering goes off and you don't see anything nearby. We should talk about gameplay, or lack thereof, for a Machine for Pigs, because the Dark Descent had some pretty cool, unique gameplay things, like the insanity and
the lamp oil.
Lamp oil, yeah, lamp oil was a huge thing, and not being able to look at the creatures, and it was I thought it was interesting that they got rid of basically all of that for a Machine for Pigs. I mean, it's developed by different people. A Machine for Pigs is made by the same people that did Dear Esther, which I don't know if you played it, but
I have yet to play it. I will.
It's good. It's similar. They like telling good stories, but they don't really do anything for gameplay. You just sort of walk around through the environment, which it's definitely feels that way with Amnesia. You know, there's no insanity for A Machine for Pigs, and there's no lamp oil, so I just have my lamp up the entire time.
Yeah, me too.
Which I think not having the insanity, that's fine, but I think it would have been more effective if they had kept the management of the lamp oil in, because having to, you know, selectively bring up your lamp only when you really need it, I think it would have made it even scarier than it actually is.
Oh, definitely.
Or than it is now. But at the same time, I'm kind of okay. I'm okay with having that lamp up the whole time, because it made it easier to get through the game. But it was just sort of weird to see a lot of these unique features completely missing from A Machine for Pigs.
Yeah, I wasn't very impressed with the gameplay elements as well. Near the second half of the game, there is a lot of cog twisting, button pressing, lever pulling, and basically machine operating later on in the game. And a lot of the puzzles kind of just resolve around pressing buttons and filling up ovens, and it was just kind of... They weren't really puzzles, they were more errands, it felt like.
They're not really puzzles when the thing you are looking for is in the next room and you have to walk like 10 feet and bring it back, you know.
It's just kind of a mechanism to make you go into these dark places where there may be pigs. One thing we didn't mention when we were talking about the pigs is I know I had a little chat with you and you said you kind of just fled, but there are different ways to combat these pigs, which could be called the main action sections of the game. You can either flee, or something I figured out is you can just turn off your lamp, your lantern, and you can kind of just crouch in the darkness. But I didn't like the sneaking option at all, because I felt really in control when I had turned off my lamp and I was kind of sneaking around them, because I could see where they were going, but they couldn't see me, if that makes any sense. But the most terrifying parts of the game is where there's sections where there's like more than one pig, and they make that squeal to kind of signify that they've seen you and they're coming after you, and you just flee and you can't look behind you and you just have to completely gun, and then you get to a dead end and you know you're going to turn around and he's going to be in your face. So I kind of wish you couldn't sneak. I know it's kind of it's nice to have options, but the fleeing was much more scary than navigating your way around them in the dark.
I have such visions to share with thee, if my jaw be unshackled and you harvest the crust from my eyes. Make me clean, Mandus, that my thoughts and words can unfouled be.
I think the best part of the whole game for me is the writing.
Yeah.
Just like every single piece of written word, every note you find, even the credits, they're all so dedicated to the time period. You know, they're so like... Whoever wrote this game wanted to make every word feel authentic to 1899, and they do such a good job of like integrating pig words into the writing, and like pig stories, and you know, like little piggy going to the market and blow your house down, little pigs, like all those little things are written into the main writing so well. It never stopped getting old, and some of the notes you find are just, they're just sickening.
Oh yeah, they're disturbing.
And they do a good job of sort of hinting at what's happening, and even though a lot of aspects of the story aren't really ever fully revealed, the notes do a really good job of sort of just giving you these little hints of just how horrifying the things are that have happened in the past in this facility that you operate. And the writing's so good.
I think the story does a good job of, I think you mentioned earlier, not really fully explaining what is happening, but more suggesting what's happening. By the end of it, you feel pretty confident that you understand what's happening, but they never like lay it out on paper. They never say, this is what's happening, this is what you've done, blah, blah, blah.
And that's very effective for sort of getting under your skin after the game is over. You sort of left wondering about a few aspects of it, and they sort of leave the weirdest aspects of it unanswered, which I appreciate quite a bit. And
some very disturbing aspects of the story later on in the game, which are really... there's some scenes which are really kind of stomach moving. They're really nasty, and I think that's more of the theme that it's not really horror, it's kind of just... I don't know, I'm not sure what the word is for... unsettling,
Yeah, there's a great sense of dread throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, that's a good word to use.
That gets
yeah.
really sickening as the more you play it, and it's a different type of horror, but it's, I think, just as effective as something like the previous Amnesia game. But
I kind of wish there were a couple more encounters, personally, because I do like my horror parts. But yeah, as you said, it's a different kind of horror. It does a really good job at building up atmosphere by more suggesting things than actually showing them to you and telling you what's going on. But yeah, it's good.
I think that if you're a big fan of The Dark Descent, you probably won't like this game quite as much, because it's much more story driven and much less about mechanics and, you know, making you really feel terrified. I think, like, as someone, I personally didn't play much of The Dark Descent because I'm a baby and couldn't handle how scary it was, whereas this I really liked because it was just sort of playing through a story. So I think if you like The Dark Descent a lot, you may not, or if you go into this expecting it to be like The Dark Descent, you probably won't enjoy it. But if you set your expectations properly, I think it's really good, and I think people would enjoy it, especially this time of the year. It's a good time to play some horror games.
Oh yeah. So what are you going to give it? What's your rating?
4 stars. I like it. I like it quite a bit, especially the writing and the story. They stuck with me, and I'll remember it for a while. I really liked it.
Personally, I'm going to give it a 3 stars. It might sound a bit critical, but I was hoping for a bit more horror, and the gameplay didn't really entice me. But I was surprised by stuff I wasn't looking for, if that makes any sense. Like stuff I wasn't expecting, like the story, as we've just talked about, and the atmosphere was different. So I was surprised about things I wasn't even expecting to be there, but I was still disappointed about stuff that I wanted there and didn't quite live up to my expectations. But still, I enjoyed it, and yeah, I recommend giving it a go. It's very different from Dark Descent. I've still only got an hour into the game because it's so horrifying, but yeah, it was more playable, but I still wish there was just a little bit more horror for me.